Hey guys, I said yesterday in class that I would make a video with setting up and the solutions to some of the applications from your homework. I also told you guys to email me so that I would remember to do this, and none of you did, but I remembered, so I'm still gonna do it. So I just have my book in front of me, and I looked up some of the problems you guys turned in, and I know some we solved at the beginning of class, so those you already know now. So I picked some of the other ones that we didn't go over in class to go through, and we'll just kind of set them up really quickly. First, in your book, if you can pause this and pull it out, number 80, page 89, number 6. Laura borrowed a total of $22,000 from two different banks to start a business. One bank charged the equivalent of 4% simple interest, and the other charged 5.5% interest. If the total interest after 1 year was $910, determine the amount borrowed from each bank. I mean, you guys can. I'm not going to write the problem out. You guys can pull your books up and use that. But we said, let's see. First, I need to know what I'm looking for. In this case, it's how much is borrowed from each bank. So I'm looking for two quantities. And we said in class, the best way to do that is to let X be the money, the principal, from the first bank. And in class, we always delineated by percentages. The first bank was 4% interest. So just so we can be clear, that's the 4% bank. And then the trick was finding the second variable, but we're told she borrowed $22,000 total. If X of it came from the first bank, then $22,000 minus X is the money from the second bank. And I think this one is 5.5%. Well, now I have my variables set up and they make sense. So the next step is to create an equation. And, well, we're clearly talking about interest. And we are told after 1 year, her total interest was $910. Okay, well, how does she get total interest? She gets interest from both banks. So just find the interest from each bank. The interest formula is PRT, and we're told time is a year, so we can just leave that off. So the interest is just principal times rate. And I would stress right now, as you guys are preparing for your exam, keep in mind we are dropping time because it is a year, so it's one, so it doesn't matter. If our time was a year and a half or 2 years or 3 years, we would have the t there and we would just plug in the 2 or 3. We just don't do it here because time is 1. But now let's see. For the first account, my principal is X. My rate is 4%, so 0.04. Time is a year, leave it off. Plus my interest from the second account. It's my principal, 22,000 minus X, times my rate, which is 0.055, make sure to move your decimal point correctly, times time, which is a year, and I'm done. And now in English, interest from the first account plus interest from the second account equals total interest owed. That makes sense. I'm actually going to leave that here. I don't want to pull out my calculator and kind of spend time on the video hitting buttons on a calculator. All of you can do the algebra there. Distribute here, combine like terms, bring the constant over, hit a couple of buttons on your calculator and solve for X. And you're done. This is all that really matters. Finding your variables and creating your equation. Okay. Next problem. Number 10 on the next page. A nurse mixes 60 cc's of a 50% saline solution with a 10% saline solution to produce a 25% saline solution. How much of the 10% solution should she use? Or he use, whatever it says. Again, the first question, what am I looking for? It says, how much of the 10% solution should he use? I'm only looking for one quantity. So, let X equal the amount of the 10% solution. And again, one thing I would stress, as I did in class, that's a percentage. It's a percent of saline in this case. It's no different than the problem we just did with an interest rate for an account. They're the same problem. For the last problem, we had interest from first account plus interest from second account equals total interest. Now we're talking about percentages of saline, but let's see. A nurse mixes 60 cc's of a 50% saline solution. So 60 cc's, that's your principal from the last, if you want to view it from the last problem, times your rate, that's a 50% solution, so 0.5, plus the saline from the second solution, that's a 10% solution, 0.10, times the amount, the principal of that, well, that's my x. And now we have saline from the first solution plus saline from the second solution should equal total saline. We want a 25% solution, so 0.25. And the only difference here is slightly different than the last one. How many cc's of solution do I have? Before, on the last problem, we were given the total amount invested, 22,000, and then we broke it up on the left, x and 22,000 minus x. Now we're actually given one of these quantities, so to find my total, well, I just add the quantities up. How much of the solution do I have? I have 60 cc's from the first one, and I have x cc's from the second one. And now again, in English, saline from the first solution plus saline from the second solution equals total saline. We have my rates, 0.25, 0.10, 0.5, just like the interest problem, and our amounts, 60x and 60 plus x. Same problem, same equation, same idea. Again, you guys can solve from there and do the math and get your x, so I'll leave it right there. The last question. Let's see. Number 22, a work rate problem. Marta can vacuum the house in 40 minutes. It takes her daughter 1 hour to vacuum the house. How long would it take them if they worked together? And we said, as far as this goes for these work rate problems, easiest way to probably do this is to create a little chart to keep things straight in your head. So you have Marta, her mother, and then you have them together. And we said in class the problem was people are working at different rates, so you can't really just immediately compare them. You have to find a way to normalize things so that you can do a comparison. And in this case, we said first you do the total time it takes. And let's see. Marta can vacuum the house in 40 minutes. It takes her daughter 1 hour to vacuum the house. Oh, I'm sorry. So it's Marta is the mother. So it's Marta and her daughter. Not Marta and her mother. One thing I would point out in class, I think we did a problem with me grading and we did it in terms of hours, which is fine. This problem has 40 minutes and 1 hour. You have two choices. You can do it either way. If you want to do it in terms of hours like we did in class, then you have to convert 40 minutes to hours, which would be 2/3 of an hour. Marta takes 2/3 of an hour, 40 minutes out of 60. Her daughter takes 1 hour. Together they take x. If you don't want to do it that way, and I guess I'll do it in a different color, the alternative is to just say, do the whole problem in terms of minutes. So kind of the same column, but in terms of minutes, you can solve it either way. If I do it in terms of minutes, Marta takes 40, her daughter takes 1 hour, which is 60, and together they take x. Either method works, pick which one makes more sense to you. Because then we said, here we do the work done in an hour. If you want to figure out the work done in an hour, well, we said just take the reciprocals. If she gets done in 2/3 of an hour, the reciprocal of that is 3/2. If her daughter takes 1 hour, the reciprocal of that is 1. Together they take x. The reciprocal of that is 1/x. I'm going to leave this off right now because you have to do that slightly differently. I just want you guys to see both ways to solve this. But then we said, once you have this, you're comparing how much work they do in an hour, and that you can actually equate. You do the amount of work Marta does in an hour, 3/2, plus the amount of work her daughter does in an hour, 1, has to equal the work they do together in an hour, 1/x. Now, we have fractions with an x in the denominator. We have to get rid of it, so we multiply by the LCM. The LCM of 2 and x is 2x. So multiply everything by 2x. Here the 2's cancel, so we get 3 times x, 3x, plus 2x times 1 is 2x. equals 2x over x. The x is canceled, that's just 2. 3x plus 2x is 5x. 5x equals 2/5. I'm sorry, 5x equals 2. So I've already jumped to the end. So x equals 2/5, and we're done. And again, then you can just convert that into minutes, since that's 2/5 of an hour. We said in class, you just multiply by 60. And if you do that, 5 goes into 60 and leaves a 12. 12 times 2 is 24, so it takes 24 minutes. And you're done. We said in class, the last thing to check is to make sure it's reasonable. If Marta does it in 40 minutes and her daughter helps, they should go faster. They do, so it makes sense. If you want to do this, and I'll switch colors in terms of red, if you want to do this in terms of minutes, then you don't do work done in an hour, you do work done in a minute. If it takes her 40 minutes to do it, then she gets done 1/40th of the work in a minute. If it takes her 60 minutes to do it, she gets done 1/60th of the work in a minute. If it takes them X minutes to do the work, it's 1 over X for all the work. Now set up an equation. 1/40th, the work Marta does, plus 1/60th, the amount of work her daughter does, equals 1 over X. That one I'm not going to solve out. This video is almost too long. It can only be so long on YouTube. But this principle would be the same. Find the common denominator, LCM, multiply by it, clear fractions, and solve, and you'll end up getting 24 minutes. It doesn't matter which way you do it on your exam. If you get a problem like this, you don't have to do it both ways. Pick one way that works for you and solve it all out. If there are any other questions, feel free to stop by my office hours, email me, whatever, and I will see you tomorrow at the exam.